Festerson. Gurnett. Gray. Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President.
Here. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our invocation by Councilmember Thompson.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I tend to say a prayer, but this time I'd like to give a reading. The reading is listed up on the board here, and if you could just silently read along with me. It says, man is unreasonable, illogic, and egocentric. It doesn't matter, love you. If you do good, you'll be accused of egotistical meanness. It doesn't matter. Do good. If you realize your dreams, you'll find false friends and real enemies. It doesn't matter. Realize it. The good you do will be forgotten tomorrow. It doesn't matter. Do good. Honesty and sincerity will make you vulnerable. It doesn't matter. Be honest and sincere. All that you construct in years can be destroyed in 1 second. It doesn't matter. Destruct. If you help people, they will resent it. It doesn't matter. Help them. Give the world the best of you. Sometimes the world will kick you. It doesn't matter. Give the best of you. These are the words of Mother Teresa, as I said. Thank you.
City Clerk certified publication on Daily Record on May 4th. Notice for a pre-council and regular City Council meeting May 8th, 2012. A current copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in a white binder on the east wall of the Legislative Chambers.
Good afternoon and welcome. This Omaha City Council meeting is conducted in public and by law may only address the topics listed on the published agenda. The Council will hear testimony but will not engage in debate of issues with the public at this meeting. During testimony, it is not appropriate to applaud or convey disapproval. These actions only detract from the formal decorum of the meeting. At this time, please turn off or mute any electronic device. Mr. Clerk.
Zoning ordinance on final reading, planning board attachments. Item number 5, ordinance to rezone property located at 4623 Douglas Street from GI to R5 35 Urban Family Residential District. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 5 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray. Yes. Jerem. Yes. Stothard. Yes. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
It's passed 7-0. Item number 6, ordinance to rezone property located at 3873 Gold Street from R4 35 Single Family Residential District High Density to R5 Urban Family Residential District. A, planning board and planning department recommend denial.
Public hearing on agenda item number 6 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents?
Motion to deny. Second.
Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Stothard.
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
The ordinance was not passed 7-0. Ordinance on final reading and planning board attachments. Item number 7, ordinance to approve the public facilities element of the master plan for the city of Omaha. A, planning board and planning department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 7 begins now. Are there any proponents? Yes, sir.
Proceed.
Proceed. Name and address, please.
My name is Nick Colios. My address is 19061 Mount McLaughlin Lane, Bend, Oregon. I am with DSA. We are teamed with BCDM Architects and we are collectively we're the project team that, along with planning, developed the 20-year public facilities master plan. I have about 15 slides, hoping for maybe about 10 minutes to briefly go through the overview of the plan with you, and if we can proceed, we would be most appreciative. I would like to give special thanks to Chad Weaver, Gary Hall, Terry Pennington from Planning, and a special thanks to Gail Knapp from GIS, who helped us with the project. They were outstanding to work with. The plan took about a little over a year to develop, and We are very pleased with the results of the plan. This loads. And sorry for my ineptitude with the PowerPoint here. Can I just use the page down, Keith? Thanks. So what we developed is a 30-year master plan, and the intent was to develop and incorporate the plan into the public facilities element. It was a very macro-level plan, conceptual in nature, but yet we took empirical processes to develop the plan. We believe that the findings of the plan are well substantiated. It's a candid statement of need. We did not try to hide anything, gloss over anything. We did a very thorough analysis of the existing facilities. With that, there's a significant implementation cost in the plan to implement the plan, but there's also, you'll see, a very significant cost if we don't do anything with the plan and simply keep the facilities that we have. The plan also has some significant cost assets that I'd like to address. And lastly, it's a big price tag, and funding solutions were not part of the scope of this project. When we look at the plan and what the real challenges are, the city has aging facilities, the city is going to continue to grow, and the city has limited means. What we tried to do was develop a plan that took into account these three factors. The existing facilities inventory, about 1,004,000 square feet, 92 facilities spread out throughout the city, housing about 1,200 staff. The problem in our analysis and what we saw with the facilities is they're old. The average age of these facilities is 34 years in age, and coincidentally 34 of those facilities are going to exceed their cost-effective lifespan over the course of this master plan. 13 of those facilities right now are already not cost-effective to retain. What that means is that it would take approximately 70% of the cost of building a new facility to bring these facilities back up to standard for today's world, yet it wouldn't cure the problems that the facilities still have in terms of lack of capacity, lack of functionality. They may not be in the right location. So you could spend a significant amount of money to retain these facilities and upgrade the ones that need to be upgraded, but you'd still be, in a sense, throwing good money after bad, and that it wouldn't be solving your problems overall, especially related to growth. And what you see on the map here is how the city is projected to grow over the long term and all the way through build-out. Long term, we're looking at a time frame of around 2035, 2040. Whether that occurs earlier or later than that time frame is really not the issue, but rather to have a plan in place that meets the population levels and the geographic area service levels that we will attain at some point in future time. So what we're showing is over the long term that the city would increase its population by about 12.5%, growing to about 460,000 people, and the geographical area increasing from around 130 square miles to about 170 square miles. How did we deal with the dilemma? Aging facilities that are going to fall off the map, a growing city. We had a process, and we basically looked at what you have now. We evaluated your existing facilities, staffing levels, operations, locations. We projected growth, both in terms of population and how that would translate into additional road miles, sewer miles, service demand for all the departments. Given that projected population growth and service demand, how would that in turn relate to staff and facilities? We projected both. And then given the net increase in facilities that we would need, and subtracting out the facilities that would fall off the board, we basically stated the magnitude of the problem that would have to be solved. We then looked in step 3 in terms of alternative solutions to the plan, and then developed an actual specific implementation plan. I want to just walk you through an example just using community centers of how we dealt with some of the issues. And what you see on the map here is we have 14 community centers right now. 5 of those facilities we're recommending that you dispose of. They're simply not worth continuing to invest in. and that you should actually retain 9 facilities. Now, if you didn't get rid of the 5 facilities that we're asking you, that we're recommending to dispose of, you'd still have to spend $3.7 million to keep those facilities up and operating if you kept them. So there's a cost of doing nothing, if you will. So we then looked, and let me highlight on the map, you'll see that the facilities in red are the facilities that we're recommending should go away and should actually fall off the map. What that does is it actually presents an opportunity for the city, because those facilities were developed incrementally over time. Were they developed in the right place? Were they sized appropriately for the constituents that they're serving? Can they be accessed by the public the way that they should be accessed? What we did develop was, for community centers, is a drive time access. We used a 5-minute drive time access for anything east of 72nd and a 7-minute drive time for anything west of 72nd. And what you can see in the map here is the actual zones that you can actually reach these facilities from. Very empirical process done through GIS within a very extensive travel time database that the city has, same database the fire department uses to establish their 4-minute response time criteria. We have similar maps for the libraries, for police, for fire, for all the functions involved with the plan. So if you look at these 2 maps, this is what we have now in the coverage. Then if we took away the facilities that need to be disposed of, you see what the service voids are. That really is our opportunity, in a sense, to how can we now develop new facilities, locate them properly, size them properly to be able to serve the public, and spend your money, in a sense, once, spend it right for a facility to last you over the long term, solve existing needs as well as long-term needs. What you see here is the eventual long-term plan that's saying we retain 9 centers, we developed 3 replacement centers, and we develop 1 new community center to accommodate growth over the long term. 13 centers total, a net reduction of 1 center over the 14 that you currently have. So in a sense, we're doing more with less in terms of number of facilities. Yes, the square footage of those facilities increases because we're programming them properly to be able to support all the activities that we need to have provide in those centers, but we're actually, through the plan, reducing the number of facilities, hopefully reducing some of your operational costs associated with that and staffing costs associated with that through economies of scale. We went through the same process for all the different departments. With the fire, it was much more scientific. We had many more facilities to deal with. We, of course, have NFPA 4-minute response time criteria, all documented in the report. What does the plan do, and when we were through with this process, what actually happens? We would have a significant realignment of service area configurations, be they for public works, streets, sewer, police department, fire, and those service area configurations would be realigned to try to equalize workload among the different districts, which allows us to develop more prototypical types of facilities, which saves the city money over the long term. We would consolidate, and if you think about this, if you exclude growth, the plan actually consolidates your facilities from 92 to 83 in the existing incorporated area. It's a net reduction of 9 facilities within your existing areas. We believe there's benefits to that, and significant benefits to the city in terms of operational costs, operational simplicity. Over the long term, there is no net increase in the number of facilities you would have, despite the city growing from 130 to 170 square miles in rough numbers, despite adding another 12.5% in the population. In one sense, having so many facilities that are in poor condition that really need to come off the map, if you will, that's a big problem, no doubt. But there was some silver lining in it, in that it presented the opportunity for us, again, to strategically locate these facilities to be able to do more with less. There is a net increase in the inventory of the facilities. What you see in this chart with the blue is the space inventory of the existing facilities as these facilities come off the map, if you will, and are replaced with new facilities in the red. There is a net increase of about 20% in the total space inventory. Again, that's to right-size the facilities and right-size them for the duration, really literally for the generations through city build-out. You'd be spending your money once and spending it right. The chart here, basically, I've kind of already really covered what the benefits of the plan is, but to just recap very quickly, we're getting rid of the facilities that really aren't cost-effective for you to keep. We're logically accommodating growth. We're co-locating compatible facilities together. I really didn't talk about that much, but think about the Saddlebrook model where we have school, library, community center together. It works. It's cost-effective, high demand by the public, successful project. We envision more of that in the future. This plan will achieve economies of scale in terms of facilities. It'll provide us with right-sized facilities. It'll provide us with flexible facilities that are going to meet contemporary needs and have the flexibility to support needs in the future. It'll provide reasonable access times to facilities and better access times to facilities for the community at large. From a city internal operational efficiency, you should be able to deploy your resources more efficiently, consolidate operations. They should be less complex. There should be cost savings both in terms of staff and in terms of day in, day out operational cost savings. More energy efficient buildings will come along with the replacement automatically, not only if you build them to code, but also if you strive to achieve higher energy ratings. A significant amount of cost savings can be achieved by these new facilities. One of the things that's not in the plan is an energy study of all your existing buildings that shows how much additional money you could be saving year in, year out on those facilities, especially facilities like fire stations, public works facilities that have high consumption utility costs. We have the potential to mitigate staff increases by reducing down the number of facilities, and by just reducing down those numbers of facilities, it should, although we can't really quantify, just increase communication among the departments, make your operations a bit more simple overall. Of course, things don't come without a cost. And at the end of the day, the plan's a $281 million plan. One would gasp, yes, it's a big number. That $281 million plan is a plan that is distributed out over a 20-year time frame to begin with. There is recognized that there are two big ticket items in the plan right now. The police headquarters project, 13% of the total cost. But we do know that everybody's well familiar with the asbestos problems with the police headquarters building. The other element that is in the plan right now is a replacement of the Clark Library, which we're recommending that actually more study be done before the city actually adopt a plan to replace that library. That's about 10% of the cost. So collectively, just those two facilities alone are about 25% of the cost of the project. If you did nothing, if you did zero, and just kept the lights on and kept your existing buildings operating over the next 20 years, you're going to have to spend $34 million just to keep things going, just to keep fire stations going and small community centers that, we know what some of them are like over the long term. The buildings are not in good condition. They were extensively analyzed by our team. And we're really recommending that you at an early date stop throwing good money after bad with some of these facilities that just aren't cost effective to retain. So what we did is we looked at, if you really subtracted that cost of doing nothing, which is 33% of the net plan cost, you'd be at about $247 million. And you can see on the charts here that the red being your actual cost savings as you took these and replaced these deficient facilities over the long term. So that's a plan in a nutshell. I know very brief. The plan's a couple hundred pages long. Certainly entertain any questions that you may have at this point. Hopefully I can answer them.
Is it Mr. Colias?
Yes.
The $281 million, is that in today's cost, or did you extrapolate that out?
That is in today's cost. Those are totally non-escalated figures. That cost also does not include any cost for land acquisition. It also does not include any potential money the city may take in from disposing of certain properties and putting them back out on the real estate market. So it took land out of the equation in a sense, and it took the economics out of the equation.
And was there any reason why the CenturyLink and the Civic Auditorium were not included in the study?
Those were not included in the scope by the city's direction. And I probably should have just, in a nutshell, said, well, what is included in the city in the Public Facilities Master Plan? It's all police, it's all public safety, police and fire, libraries, community centers, all the public works facilities, including fleet maintenance, the parks maintenance facilities also. Did I miss any, guys? Those were the facilities that were included in the plan. So we did not look at the auditorium. We did not look at the parking structures, for example. We didn't look at the parks. The parks already has their actual master plan, but we did look at the parks maintenance facilities that are associated with the maintenance of the parks and the mowing of medians and that sort of thing.
Thank you. Ms. Stothert.
Thank you very much. I'll ask you a question while you're there. Let's see, what was the question I was going to ask you? As far as the OPD headquarters, did you rely on the study that the Building Commission did?
We did not go back in and reanalyze the building. We looked at the findings of the facility itself, the asbestos study, the costs associated with that. We're recommending that the city really look at, I think you really need to go to the next step with that plan and really weigh, do we really want to continue to invest in that building and fix the problem, or really just pick up and move it all together?
The Building Commission came out with 3 scenarios and recommended one, and that was basically staying in the same facility they are now, but pretty much remodeling the whole thing and taking the top floors out. So is that what you did? Is that what you used?
That is what's in the plan at this point, yes, in terms of the cost.
So the cost is around $55 million in your plan for
the cost has gone up since we have completed the plan, our plan itself.
Because the Building Commission's plan was around 55.
Yeah,
so.
yeah, we were at we were less than that. I can't grab a number right off the top of the head, but at a certain point we had to kind of freeze our study, in time. But that cost has continued to increase, and that's why we're recommending, and we made a late recommendation in the plan that the city continue to study that project and is it really worth doing. My own belief is I think it's going to be very, very hard to implement that plan to keep operations going. Obviously, the police can't stop operating. You're talking a 24/7 basis. It's an ambitious project. Yeah, it's phased, but I really think that the city really ought to take a hard look at that. And there's also something called the Downtown Master Plan, and there's some recommendations in there that are in conflict with keeping the existing building on that side.
Were you fiscally constrained at all while you were developing this plan?
No.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have a question for Planning Department. Should I ask Mr. Cunningham or Mr. Weaver?
Rick Cunningham, why don't you ask Mr. Weaver, since he was the project manager.
Where is he? There he is.
Right there.
Okay. Yeah. That's right.
Chad Weaver, City Planning.
Hi, Mr. Weaver. Why? Could you tell us why that the Civic was left out of this plan?
Those facilities were not in the previous iteration of the Public Facilities Plan. They're kind of separate, one-off, unique facilities. So, it wasn't any grand decision other than we've not covered them in our documentation in the past. So, it would have just required more more funding to add to their scope. So.
Okay. Then other questions I have for you, though, is, of course, as was already stated, this has a hefty price tag of about $280 million. Approving what we have before us today, is this is approving the vision, the blueprint, the plan, right?
Correct.
This is not saying that, yes, we will do all of these things.
Certainly not. I mean, it provides options in the plan as well. It doesn't necessarily chart one specific course of action. As we're just indicated, there is a cost of doing nothing. There is a cost of deferred maintenance on facilities you tend to keep longer than they would recommend
I understand
as
that,
well.
because
So
we talk a lot about when we want to do things like this that, we will save $34 million, but we will spend $280 million. And so you got to look at the whole picture accurately. But having asked if this is just approval of the vision and the blueprint, this is not saying, yes, we will do this by approving this today, nor is it saying, yes, we will come up with the funds to do this.
that's true. Both of those items are true, yes.
So,
basically, our goal was to make sure that we didn't take any missteps in moving forward without a grander vision, a holistic vision in mind.
Okay. But as he stated also, Mr. Colios, that there is no funding source that is really described or determined in this study at all.
That's correct.
Okay. All right.
The existing funding sources out there would not be sufficient. It would probably require a new one or a separate bond issuance, something of that nature.
Mm-hmm. And are these new facilities that are described in this plan, are they somehow prioritized in the plan of what is more critical to do sooner than later?
Yes, based on the specific conditions, the analysis of each building, there are time horizons in which they recommend buildings going away if there's funding available. Some of those are essentially immediate, and some are 15, 20 years out.
Mm-hmm. And then the land acquisition part, the land acquisition is not in here as far as the cost, so that could drive up the cost even more?
Well, it certainly will. I mean, it's possible that certain facilities can be located on ground that we already own or come across through some other means, but certainly there will be some acquisition in some cases.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Jerem.
Yes, Mr. Colios. I saw you nodding you have to identify yourself again for our transcript.
Yes, Nick Colios with DSA.
I saw you during Mr. Weaver's testimony nodding your head in agreement. Is that because you agree with what he just said?
Yes, in terms of the prioritization of the facilities, we didn't say a library is more important for you to develop than a community center is. What we said in the plan was, and if you look in the last section of the plan, the actual implementation section of the plan, we developed the plan in approximately 5-year planning increments. Those increments are tied to population growth, and they're tied to building lifespan. So when I said early on in the presentation that our findings and our recommendations are through as an empirical process as they can be, that's in part what I was alluding to. When a facility needs to fall out, really come off the map, it needs to come off the map. Don't spend any more money on that facility if you can at all not do that. You can delay the plan, but in terms of the sequence of when these buildings really should be coming off the map and new ones are developed, that's really clearly delineated in the plan. There's 94 some odd line items, all in a Gantt chart, all in a timeline, all with cost associated in 5-year planning increments. So these costs in terms of like the deferred maintenance costs, I mean, they're by building in 5-year increments, so the city can, if you just can't fund the new facilities, we understand that. Our charter was to develop an empirical statement of need that was logical and really carefully, and as a first step, we went in and we evaluated all those existing facilities for the purposes of the CIP, because planning was very concerned, given how much money was being spent on these facilities, that we weren't going to be investing in facilities that we knew we would be getting rid of in the short term.
Are there any buildings that are in that stage where you say are already at the critical stage where we should not be putting any more money into them today?
There are 13 buildings total right now that we're saying have already exceeded their lifespan.
What's the number one building that comes to your mind?
Of those facilities, the number one facility, we really didn't prioritize in that order. If I can go back to the chart, the majority of the facilities were in the fire stations itself. And a couple of the fire stations were just, they're ready to fall down. They just shouldn't be invested in at all. You should get out of the Southwest precinct. It's a lease facility. You're putting money into it. You should be getting out of there today. Aside from a couple fire stations, that would probably be one of the first things that I would do for the police department. It's undersized. It's leased. You're going to be putting more money into that facility. It's really a kingpin to get the police facilities going in terms of their actual precinct facilities.
And I want to underscore on the what Councilmember Stothard, I think, was getting to on one part of her questions. This is just a blueprint. Funding for this, you recommend in 5-year decisions, as I understand what you're saying. And if I hear what Mr. Weaver is saying, likely in some sort of vote of the people towards bonds or something, is that the common means for funding some kind of public facilities?
Yeah, that is by far the most common means of funding public facilities. You can break that up into pieces. Various dollar amounts, in a sense, can the community is willing to absorb. It may be a public safety bond, but that doesn't take care of your community centers and your libraries. It could be a community facilities bond that takes care of your libraries, community centers. There are joint public-private partnerships that cities are more, and counties, government agencies are more commonly using. That is a collective effort between the two. I'm a large proponent of that kind of approach. It has to be done right. I'm certainly not an expert in that area and wouldn't pretend to be, but it has to be done right. It has to be done with an accountability of the private partner involved. So if it's a design, build, and a leaseback situation where the county inherits a building 30 years down the road, you want to make sure that when you inherit that building, it's still a good building, that into the contract it was written in not just day in, day out maintenance, but the HVAC gets replaced at 20 years. All the critical building systems are maintained at a level to where when you do inherit that building back, you're inheriting a sound building.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Just before we do the roll call here, I just wanted to, get on a soapbox here for a moment. This is really a sobering piece of news for the city of Omaha. If this is calculated in today's dollars for an additional $280 million for new facilities, in addition to the probably close to $2 billion that the city is going to be looking at for the CSO project, in a 25-year span, we could be talking about $2.5 billion in additional costs to the city. Roll call.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's passed 7-0. Resolution, very preliminary plats, subdivision agreements, and special use permits. 8, resolution preliminary plat entitled United States Cold Storage Edition, located southeast of Dahlman Avenue and G Streets, is hereby accepted. Preparation of final plat is hereby authorized. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 8 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray? Jerem? Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. We'll take items 9 and 10 together. They're same case. 9 is resolution permanent plat entitled Northern Hills Estate 2, generally located southeast of 72nd Street and Northern Hills Drive, with a waiver of sidewalks on attached conditions hereby accepted in preparation of final plat is hereby authorized. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval. And 10 is special use permit to allow development in the Northern Hills Environmental Overlay District is hereby approved. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda items number 9 and 10 begin now. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon. Mark Westergaard with ENA Consulting Group, 330 North 117th Street. This is the second phase for Mr. Edquist. He did an additional phase of 23 lots. It's the second phase of 21 lots immediately south, just east of the North Omaha Airport. Planning Department recommends approval, and we would appreciate your support.
Thanks, Mark. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call. This is for 9 and 10.
9 and 10.
9 and 10.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
They're adopted 7-0. Pursuant to City Council Rule 70, agenda items 11 through 12 shall be laid over for 2 weeks. Item 13 is the plat and dedication of strip of land along the east border of Lot 1, Armstrong, First Edition, replat 23, located northwest of 24th and Cummings Street. A, Planning Board and Planning Department recommend approval.
Public hearing on agenda item number 13 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's approved 7-0. Liquor, item number 14, Impulse Bar, 14477 West Center Road, Class C liquor license, new application, new location. You have a communication opposing, and the applicant is requesting an amendment to remove the outdoor area.
Public hearing on agenda item number 14 begins now. Are there any proponents? Please state your name and address.
My name, Councilman, is Patrick Beerbaum. My address is 850 West 17th Street, Fremont, Nebraska.
My name is Devin Wilson. My address is 27167 Larpenteur Memorial Road, Turin, Iowa.
My name is Tyler Hightree, 1665 North Logan, Fremont, Nebraska.
Councilman, we just want to know if you have any questions for us that you would like to know. We can cover whatever your questions may be.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Mr. President, I noticed.
Mr. Gray.
I noticed here our building inspector is requesting a layover.
This was for the outdoor area. They're requesting that be.
They're requesting that be removed?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'd make a motion to approve, subject to the removal.
Well, let's make a motion to amend to delete the outdoor area.
Okay, motion to amend what Buster said. Motion to amend to delete the outdoor area.
Mr. Thompson.
Hi, guys. How you doing?
Good, Councilman.
You guys look young. You look like you could be 18, 19 years old. Are you of age?
Yes, sir.
What are your ages?
23. Tyler's 24 and 23 too. We deployed, came back, have the money.
Okay. You're back from deployment?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your service. We want to take a chance on young entrepreneurs, and we want you to do well. So make us proud, okay?
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thompson will be watching. No, I'm kidding.
We have a second.
Yes.
Roll call.
It's on the amendment. Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes. Roll call.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Approved as amended 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 15, Boozers, 7402 F Street, Class C liquor license, new application, old location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 15 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Mr. President, members, Mike Kelly, 7134 Pacific, appearing here with Justin Peck, the applicant. He's attempting to take over the business, which used to be known as Pudgy's Bar and Grill out there on 74th and F, a long-time neighborhood bar out there. And Justin he's 26. He's going to take this over. He's been operating it successfully so far on a temporary operating permit. One snafu that I alerted you to at the pre-meeting, he neglected to put down a couple of charges he had. He indicated his record was clean. Well, it's not really clean. He had a DUI 5 years ago or 4 years ago. He had a minor possession 7 years ago, and he had a failure to appear on a speeding ticket. So those were not, they've been amended and now included, and I'm obviously making it known at the public hearing. I think he's a fit and proper applicant, having look what he's doing. He has not taken the training yet. He intends to, and we'd understand if you made your approval subject to him obtaining the training, the formal training, which he has not done yet. He tells me he's going to have his entire staff do the training as well. With that, we're here for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Ms. Stothard.
Thank you. I have to ask Mr. Peck. Okay, just tell me how you failed to disclose these citations.
Your name is
Justin Peck, 4252 Nebraska Ave, Omaha, Nebraska. Actually, I was thinking it was a traffic violation. Later on, the state trooper brought it to my attention that was a misdemeanor.
What about the DUI and the MIP?
The DUI, I was thinking it was a traffic, because it's on the paperwork it said to write down misdemeanors, felonies. I was just thrown off by that, I guess, and the state trooper.
Okay. Well, here's where I'm going to go with this anyway. Is you're going to be the manager, and we take these liquor managers very seriously because your job is to make sure your business follows all the rules and regulations of the law, and those rules and regulations need to be very clear to you what they are. It sounds like you're really unclear that you violated the law here, so that concerns me. So tell us how you are going to be a responsible liquor manager and that you are going to understand the law and you are going to make sure the law is enforced with this business. The last thing we want to hear is that you might be selling to minors saying, gee, I wasn't aware of that. So tell us how you're going to be a good liquor manager and you're going to make sure all the rules and regulations of the law are being followed.
I'm going to take the liquor serving classes, and then I'll make my employees take the liquor serving classes, and then I'll closely watch them. And
what are you going to do in your business to prevent minors being served?
Card everyone.
You are going to card everyone?
Under 35.
Under
35.
You're going to card people under 35?
Well, if you look under 30, just card everybody.
Okay, you really need to be aware of what the law is, and I really want you to make us comfortable that you are going to follow that. And that you're going to be very responsible. And it really concerns me that you weren't aware that you violated the law in these citations that you got before. Okay? So, I think for sure I would want to see you take the Certified Liquor Management Program and your employees also.
I'm planning on scheduling it with them. They should be like next month. I think I have 100, the Liquor Commission said I had 120 days to get it done, so
okay.
I plan on doing it within the next month.
Okay, but please understand that your job it's a serious job with this establishment, and that's your job to make sure that the law is being followed.
Yes.
Thank you.
Need a motion?
Motion approved, subject to making sure that they get the training. Certified liquor manager. 10 minutes now.
Roll call.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem is out of the chambers. Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It passed 6-0. subject to. Item 16, L7 Mayor's 5447 South 24th Street, Class I liquor license, new application, old location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 16 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Michael Polk, 1913 Farnham Street, here for the applicant to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Mr. President, if I may.
Mr. Gurnett.
Is the applicant here, Counselor?
Yes, she's with me.
She's not afraid of us, is she?
A little bit.
Come on down. Why don't you just state your name and your address for the record?
My name is Christina Soriano, and it's 5447 South 24th Street, Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay. According to your application, you've been taking this operation over from your mom?
Yep.
And you've had what amount of experience? We have some very young applicants today, very young-looking applicants.
Well, I've been there at the restaurant for 9 years, and my mom wants to retire, so she's just transferring everything to me. So, yeah, I already took the online liquor license thing.
So you've seen and done just about everything from dishwashing.
Yep, cook, waitress,
all the way up to washing the windows, huh?
Yep.
Well, I think I'm willing to give everybody a chance. And look, I read your application pretty closely, so I think I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem?
Yes.
Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0.
Notice I didn't ask the woman her age.
Item 17 and 18, we'll take one public hearing, we'll take individual votes. 17 is the Come and Go, number 364 at 8990 Boyd Street. It's a package liquor license, new application, new location. And 18 is a Come and Go at 4443 South 84th Street, new application, new location, package liquor license.
Public hearing on agenda items number 17 and 18 begin now. Are there any proponents?
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the council. Mike Kelly, 7134 Pacific, appearing here with Come and Go's regional manager Becky Bloffus. These are two different new stores. We're asking for Class D licenses at both of them, and we're here for questions. I think you know Come and Go has been a good corporate partner here in Omaha, and I'm glad to see they're expanding. But we're here for questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Festerson? Yes. Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Stothard?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
And Jerem passes the second time for potential conflict of interest. 17 is adopted 6-0-1 passing. Now 17, now 18.
Roll call.
Festerson? Yes. Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Stothard? Yes. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
Jerem passes the second time. It's adopted 6-0-1 passing. Item number 19, Nebraska at the Market, 1215 Ludmore Street, package liquor license and application, new location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 19 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Jim Laguza, 555 Riverfront Plaza, Omaha, Nebraska. I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Festerson? Yes. Gurnett?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Jerem? Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It's adopted 7-0. Item number 20, Kendall's Tavern, 6310 Gilmore Avenue, request permission for an addition of their basement area for storage.
Public hearing on agenda item number 20 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Nancy Kendall, 7402 South 17th. Just here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Festerson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray. Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President.
Yes.
It's approved 7-0. Item 21, Sterling Distributing Company, 4433 South 96th Street. Request permission for an addition to their present Class X wholesale liquor and Class W wholesale beer license location.
Public hearing on agenda item number 21 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Festerson. Gurnett. Gray. Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Approved 7-0. Item 22, Clancy's Pub, 7120 Pacific Street. Request permission to appoint Michael Kelly manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 22 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Mr. President, members, Mike Kelly, 7134 Pacific, gave some serious thought to not coming up here and taking the abuse that I'm sure could come with this.
Are you the Michael Kelly?
I'm the same one, yeah. And this, of course, my partner used to be the manager there, and since we split up, then required somebody to put in there, and I couldn't get Sean to do it, so I'm doing it. So here I am. And I haven't taken the training, but I've taught it. I like to think I am. I can't. I do know the difference between criminal and traffic stuff. So that's why I disclosed my recent traffic deal. So I would ask for your approval.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Festerson. Gurnett.
You know we couldn't pass that up. Yes.
Gray. Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President.
Yes.
And Jerem passes a second time for a potential conflict of interest. It's approved 6-0-1 passing. Item number 23, TGI Fridays, 10000 California Street. Request permission to appoint Marshall True manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 23 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Marshall True, 623 Dorcas Street.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Move the approval. Second.
Roll call.
Festerson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray. Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President.
Yes.
It's approved 7-0. Item number 24, Millard Roadhouse, 13325 Millard Avenue. Request permission to appoint Mark Kitson manager.
Public hearing on agenda item number 24 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Mark Kitson, 12648 Yates Street.
Are you still doing chicken gizzards?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Motion approved.
Roll call.
Festerson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President.
Yes.
Approved 7-0.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Any member of the City Council may cause an item placed on the consent agenda to be removed. Items removed from consent agenda shall be taken up by the City Council immediately following the consent agenda in the order in which they were removed unless otherwise provided by City Council rules of order.
The public hearings on agenda items numbers 25 through 28 were held on May 1st, 2012.
Second.
Roll call.
Festerson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray. Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President.
Yes.
They're all passed 7-0.
The public hearings on agenda items number 29 through 34 are today. If you wish to address the City Council regarding these items, please come to the microphone, indicate the agenda item number you wish to address, identify yourself by your name, address, who you represent, and if you are a proponent or opponent. Public hearing is closed. Roll call.
Festerson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray. Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President.
Yes.
29 through 34 adopted 7-0. Ordinance on final reading. Item number 35, ordinance to renew the cable television franchise now held by Cox Communications Omaha LLC to provide that such franchise shall be renewed for 10 years. A, B, C, and D are all communications and documents submitted.
Second.
Public hearing on the was held on May the 1st, 2012. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. John Barrett.
Thank you, John Barrett with Cox Communications, 11505 West Dodge Road.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Some of them are directly related to what we're voting on today, and then some are a spinoff. But I wanted to take this opportunity to get everything on the record. And first of all, thanks, John, for you've been representing the company as the government liaison for a long time, and thank you for the good work you've done. I want you to also send thanks back to your superiors in working with us. It was a long, hard road, but we finally came with an agreement that everybody could live with, and a lot of that had to do with your lawyer, who is a very capable professional, too. The first question I have, though, has to do with a public relations thing, and these are questions that are asked of me, but I can't answer them because I'm not Cox, and so I made promises to some constituents that I would at least get it on the record. And what it is, they're asking me, is Cox a true community partner, or is profit the thing that drives everything that they're about? There's some feeling that you're really not a true community partner. Could you go on record and just tell us about that?
No, certainly. No, Cox definitely is a community partner. Let me start by, before I came here today, I looked back at the money we've contributed to charities in the last 10 years. We've given...
Would you tell us about it? Go ahead.
Certainly. We've given over $1 million a year in cash to charities, to the Boys and Girls Club, the Urban League, different charities like that. We're very involved in the community. We've been the title sponsor of the Cox Classic since, I think, 2007. We have 1,100 employees in the Omaha metro area. I talk to people about that. Sometimes people are surprised by that. 1,100 employees. We've invested over $1 billion in our infrastructure here in the Omaha metro area to build a state-of-the-art backbone for telecommunications. So I can kind of go on and on, but we definitely are part of the community. Our employees live here, they work here, and they're part of the community. We had about 100 employees at the Cinco de Mayo parade this weekend, marching for Cox. So we were involved in things like that, and so I would say, yeah, we most certainly are part of the community.
And I can verify that those things that you talked about are contributions. One of the contributions that I know you've made is the Omaha Table Talk, and that's been a very appreciated contribution. Still, I get residents asking me, how come there are so many rate hikes so often in such a condensed period of time? For example, like in the last 6 years, how many rate hikes have there been?
I don't know how many rate hikes we've had or price adjustments, price increases. What I will say about that is there are many factors that go into price adjustments or rate increases. The biggest single factor for our rate increases or price adjustments is the rising cost of programming content. That's the main reason we raise our rates. Programmers like ESPN and CNN, we carry their content, and they constantly are charging more for us to carry that content. ESPN signs huge deals with the BCS or Fox Sports. They sign huge sports deals. It costs a lot of money, and those costs are passed on to Cox. We try to absorb as much of those costs as we can, but ultimately we have to pass some of those costs along to our customers. So that's the main driver of the cost increases.
Another question that they ask is, are you ever able, and we're not asking you to commit on record today, but do you ever look at the fact of the poorer people can only afford so much money, so they have a basic tier, but some of the things that are in the basic tier are kind of bland and vanilla. And so do you have a time where you go through and you readjust what is basic, what is not basic?
We do. We are always looking at that. We talk to our customers every day. They call in. They talk about what they can afford, what they're asking for. We look at that every day. We look at we have different packages, different levels of services for different customers. For instance, just a few months ago, we had a TV economy, which is $28 a month. It does not require a box. It has over 50 channels, which includes CNN, Disney Channel, the Turner Classic Movies, weather. So we're trying to put packages like that together for all ranges of our customers.
That's encouraging. The next question I have is one time when I called myself, and I'm not poor by any means. I'm not rich, maybe like Gary Gurnett is, but I'm not poor either. And I said, why don't you just lock me in to a price? And I threw that out there just out of frustration. And the lady said, okay. And I said, I can get a price lock-in? And she said, yes, for 2 years. So I locked it in, and I said, is this something that most people know about? And she says, probably not, because we don't advertise it.
Right.
Do you still have that program where you can lock your prices in for a time, or was that just I caught you on a good month?
Well, no, that was something that we were trying. I would have to go back and ask. I'm not exactly sure if that campaign is still running. But again, our operational costs and our programming costs are not locked in. They increase every year. And that's not unique to Cox. That's true for DirecTV and Dish and CenturyLink and Comcast, all video providers. It's the same issues with our costs go up.
So the deal that I got was a promotional?
It was. It was a trial.
A trial.
Campaign. And what I'll do is I'll go back and check to see if that's still running.
Right.
Yep.
People appreciate those kinds of efforts because that not only helps them, but it helps the public relations too. Sure. 2 more questions. And I know that you're not a senior executive, but do you have any idea how long it will be before Cox will go 100% digital?
And I'll start by saying I think Mr. Grogan did a nice job last week of explaining that process. For competitive business reasons, I could not get into a timetable of when we may go all digital. But what I can say is that there is no doubt that's the way the industry is moving. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get there someday. I don't know. I can't say whether it's going to be next year or 5 years, but that is definitely where we're going, mainly because of the broadband constraints that we have. That would open up so much more spectrum and broadband for us to add more HD channels, more diverse programming, more on-demand, faster internet speed. So I can't tell you today when that's going to happen, but I can tell you that there's no doubt that's where the industry is going.
When it does happen, will that in and of itself raise the rates? The fact of going all digital, does that...
That in and of itself should not raise the rates.
Okay.
What that should do is actually bring more value to our product, and not just our video product, but our internet product and our phone product. That should open up bandwidth to where we can add more channels. So it will bring more value.
Okay. And then the last question I have is, I think you have one dedicated employee to the public access channel.
Yes, Chris Craddock.
Okay.
Been with Cox for over 25 years.
Right, 25 years.
Yeah.
So when this 6-month period is over, do you put him into another position, or do we have a shot at hiring him, or I don't want to lose all that institutional knowledge that he has?
Certainly. I would probably, as far as Chris's position with Cox, I don't think I could comment on that.
Okay.
I'll get in trouble with the
I understand.
HR police at Cox.
Well,
but Chris is very qualified to do public access, I can tell you that.
At least I want to go on record as saying that if we couldn't hire him, we would like to be able to pick his brain a lot, because he's been here for 26 years.
Certainly.
And has a lot of knowledge.
Well, thank you for that. And I will certainly pass that along to Chris, although I think he's taping it today,
yes,
so he's probably listening. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
But whatever knowledge that we can transfer from the old into the new, I think would help that transition.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, like I said, it wasn't, I didn't bring you up to get you on record to make promises, but I wanted to at least get the audience out there in TV land some idea of whether or not you are a community partner, kind of generally where you're headed. Will the prices keep going up? And it seems like you don't have a lot of control over that, but whatever control you have, I sure appreciate you speaking on behalf of the small guy.
We certainly will.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman.
Mr. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be very brief. First of all, I would like to thank you again, John, for the negotiations. We know they were tough, and we know that there was a lot of give and take, and we appreciate that. I also want to thank the country lawyer in the back there that describes himself that way. But Kermit, thank you. You did a wonderful job again. I just wanted to say, and I don't have any questions for anyone. I just wanted to let there are a couple of people in the audience that I want to let them know that once hopefully this will pass, and I am supporting it. But at the end of the day, we very quickly are going to convene a meeting from Francis and Jim so that we can talk about how we go about doing things from this point forward. And I'll be talking to the president about how much he's going to let me be involved in that process. I might twist his arm a little bit, but anyway, I just wanted you all to know that things change, and contract negotiations are tough, and there's a lot of give and take. But at the end of the day, I think we can do something magical if we sit down and work together and make it happen. And we can do some of the branding that you talked about, rebranding that we need to do, Jim, for specifically the Knowledge Network and so forth. So we will get that done. And I just wanted to let you all know that. And thank you for your patience. And I know sometimes it seems a little frustrating, but we're going to get through this. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Roll call.
Festerson?
Yes.
Gurnett?
Yes to everything but my financial statement.
Gray?
Okay. Yes.
Jerem? Stothard? Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. President?
Yes.
It is passed 7-0. Ordinance on second reading, item 36, ordinance to approve an amendment to the Georgetown Properties LLC tax and refinancing redevelopment agreement, and to approve the Georgetown Exarban LLC tax and refinancing redevelopment loan agreement to develop the project site located at 6349 South Cedar Plaza into a new 3-story market rate apartment building.
Public hearing on agenda item number 36 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Good afternoon. Ken Johnson, City Planning Department. The project before you today is a tax credit financing project that implements a plan that was amended by this body. The plan changes the type of development that has occurred as a result of financing and also the marketplace. The documents in the plan was amended to change the model of the project being completed. Originally, there were townhomes being proposed. This is going to convert those townhomes instead into an apartment complex. I'll respond to any questions that you may have. It meets our guidelines, and the plan was previously approved by this body.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jerem.
Yes, I just would like to comment, even though this is a slight reduction in the scope of the development, it's still, if you've been out to Exarban Village, has seen the quality of the development. I'm told waiting lists to get in, and this is kind of the way the market's moved, and so we won't vote today, but it's still a very, very good project, and so I hope you'd support it next time we vote.
Mr. Clerk.
Item 37, orders to approve a tax center financing redevelopment agreement with Nodo Zesto Development LLC for the development of a vacant site at 1203 Mike Fahey Street for the construction of a new 2-story Zesto fast food restaurant.
Public hearing on agenda item number 37 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Ken Johnson, City Planning. This project, again, is similar to the project we just talked about. It is the finishing phases in the Nodo development. Nodo is the facility was located by the former Rosenblatt Stadium. We worked with them, and they're moving and have built a new facility in the downtown core. It follows the ACI guidelines. The original plan was for a 1-story fast food drive-through type restaurant. We now have a 2-story state-of-the-art ACI guideline facility that is probably ready to open its doors for the College World Series. It's a TIP project. It meets our guidelines. We encourage your support.
Thank you. Are there any other proponents? Any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
We should have a TIF flavor.
Item 38, ordinance to approve redevelopment tax and financing loan agreement with the 2223 Dodge Street, contemplating the conversion and rehabilitation of the historic Northern Natural Gas Building, now called the Highline Building, and its adjacent parking structures.
Public hearing on agenda item number 38 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Ken Johnson, City Planning Department. This is the former Northern Natural Gas facility that's been empty and vacant for a long period of time. It is a total redo or rehabilitation and conversion of that facility into an apartment complex. Todd Heasted, the developer, is available in the audience if you have any questions. It meets our TIF guidelines, and we encourage your support. In addition to this project, Todd is also involved in a massive analysis of that area, looking at other development opportunities in and around that building, and he's also providing TIF support and personal financial support for that project. We encourage your participation and your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed. Mr. Jeremy.
Yes, Todd, would you want to come down? This is quite a story here. There's a couple of us, the Council President and I, took a tour here recently, and we went up to the top and all the way down in between into the basement, and applaud what you're doing here. And as I understand it, 197 units in
yes,
this building.
Todd Heaston with Restyle Development. Yes, and it'll be 94 units.
194.
I'm happy to give tours. I'd love to do that.
And you're coming off the heels of your development out in the Farm Credit Building.
Yes.
You still have a waiting list on the apartments there?
Yes, and we've had a few turnovers, and basically they're moving in the next day. So yeah, we still have actually it's up to about a 62-person waiting list.
One thing I was interested in learning is that the developer here, Mr. Heasted, and his company still, when you have the TIF, for those in the TIF critical universe, which is not a big population of people, but there's some people who don't support TIF, still, to make this work financially, to develop it, still pours in and carries a considerable amount personally. And it's amazing you can make these things work with what you have to do, and so I applaud your dedication.
Thank you. And it is, I've been in it long enough, I think. 10 years ago, I wouldn't be able to pull that off, so that's part of it. I enjoy doing it, and I'm able to put back into the city.
But when we hear from Mr. Johnson about the surrounding area, you have in this project between Dodge and Douglas, and actually quite a strip along Douglas, don't you?
There is, and so hopefully we can get some other developers talked into doing some things in that area. It's kind of no man's land, so that's kind of the goal anyhow.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd, you don't need to come back up, but as Mr. Johnson indicated, this corner has been vacant way too long, and this is really a good news story for downtown Omaha. And thank you, for the tour that you gave Mr. Jerem and I. I mean, it's I recommend it to all of our colleagues here. It's really amazing what you're doing with that building. So, thank you, Mr. Gray.
Let me just say, Mr. President, that I have been on the tour because they managed to do a better job of getting it than what we were trying to do at the Omaha Housing Authority. So you kind of beat us to it, but we applaud you. There was a little too much for us to take on, I think, but. I have made the tour from top to bottom as a representative of the OHA board, and so we looked at that building for a while, but I'm more than happy that you got it. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. Grennan.
Todd, do you remember the smile that you had on your face at the Livestock Exchange building? I see that same one now.
It's
All right.
kind of a neat area.
Quite a project.
It'll be fun.
Mr. Johnson, you wanted to make a comment?
There's an additional comment I would like to make in terms of Mr. Heasted. We were in discussions today, and I can't tell you who the particular client is, that is actually looking at doing another major development in and around the same area that Todd is developing. They looked at his Farm Credit Building project, they look at the building he's doing now, and they're now really looking at other parcels within that same general area that they may be willing to make the investment to bring about. And that's another indication that when we use TIF and we use it in the right way, that we really are building a stronger economy for our city. And I compliment Todd for the work that he's done. He's done low-income housing tax credit projects as well as these projects he's doing now. But it's the catalyst, and it's how we use TIF as the catalyst to encourage others to make development decisions.
Well, I hope that becomes infectious south of Martha Street.
Yes, sir.
Todd, one
Mr.
impressive. I think the one thing that stuck out, I mean, I think you said on a given day there's over 200 employees, construction jobs on that.
It gets as high as it does get. Sorry, it does get as high as 200. We're running about 150 right now. So yeah, by the time we get everybody there for getting things finished out, it will be.
Yeah, it's just a remarkable story. Just even short term on the construction jobs, and then the long term on the investment. It's just an incredible story.
Mr. Clerk.
Item number 39, ordinance to transfer unencumbered funds appropriated in the 2012 budget of the City of Omaha from the Public Works Department to the Human Rights and Relations Department for the purpose of providing funding for Human Relations Representative 1.
Public hearing on agenda item number 39 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 40, ordinance to approve and authorize payment to HP Financial Services for the lease of computers for the Omaha Police Department.
Public hearing on agenda item number 40 begins now. Are there any proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Item 41, ordinance to amend sections 1953 and sections 3710 through 93 to amend fees and licensing requirements and classifications for the arborist working within the City of Omaha.
Public hearing on agenda item number 41 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Josh Fry, City of Omaha Parks Department, here to answer any questions.
Thank you, Josh. Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Pursuant to City Council Rule 70, the public hearing agenda items number 42 through 43 shall be held on third reading. Pursuant to City Council Rule 7C, the public hearing on agenda items 44 through 46 shall be held on the second reading.
48.
We have one more.
Agenda item number 48 on a supplement, a resolution subdivision agreement between the city and Walmart Real Estate Business Trust providing for the waste shed management fees and sewer connections to the Omaha sewer system hereby approved. It's for the West Benson Replat 13 and is located at 2451 North 90th Street.
You were going to get out of here, didn't you, Mr. Joe?
Right.
Public hearing on agenda item number 48 begins now. Are there any proponents?
Yes, Mr. President, members of the council, Larry Jobin, 11440 West Center Road, appearing on behalf of Walmart Corporation. Here to really just answer any questions, but I also wanted to thank the Finance Department, the Public Works Department, and the Planning Department for moving this to the council so quickly. This somehow kind of fell by the wayside when the plat was going through, so we're trying to close this transaction. Actually, this is the neighborhood market at 90th and Lake, so I just wanted to thank them publicly. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you.
And the clerk's office, of course. Yes, for putting it on the supplemental agenda. Can't leave out Buster.
Are there any other proponents? Are there any opponents? Public hearing is closed.
Second.
Roll call.
Festerson.
Yes.
Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem.
Yes.
Stothard. Thompson.
Yes.
Mr. President.
Yes.
Adopted 7-0.
Motion to adjourn.
319.
I knew there was an A.
Roll call.
Festerson. Gurnett.
Yes.
Gray.
Yes.
Jerem. Stothard. Thompson. Mr. President. 319.